Welcome back. Markets truly in the pink of health, and now at the high of the day or nearabouts there, the Sensex and the Nifty closer to the highs of the day. We've seen momentum come back to the markets, and it is the metal space that is again zooming up. We are seeing the Sensex, there you go, it's spiked up. It's up nearly 1.5%. Sterlite Industries and Hindalco from the non-ferrous space are really in demand today and moving up higher. That's Sterlite Industries for you, up 40 rupees. Let's also pull up Hindalco and show you what that stock is doing. It has moved into the top 5 in the Sensex as well at up 4.5% nearabouts. So it is time that we talk about mutual funds in Mutual Fund Watch. Anil Rego, he's CEO and founder of Right Horizons, is joining us from Bangalore to discuss mutual funds. Anil, the view going around with many equity analysts as well is that mid caps are now going to start moving up because the large caps are already priced in and moved up a lot. If someone wants a mid cap and small cap exposure to the markets via mutual funds, what would be your recommendation? Do you think at this point it can be thought about, given that markets have run up quite a bit? What are your top recommendations for mid caps and small caps?
Sure. I think the mid caps is something that one should be looking at even over long term. We are reasonably bullish about the market there. So mid caps is something that one should be doing. At the same time, one has to be a little cautious because markets have run up a bit. Yeah, there may be some steam left in the market, for mid caps. So you can, end up participating in that. But one needs to be a little cautious, maybe spread out, do systematic investments, systematic transfers. Some of the options that you can look at are, stuff like Sundaram, Select Mid Cap. You can even, if you have a high risk appetite, you can look at a Sundaram Smile. Reliance RSF is one good fund there. And, you could also look at stuff like Birla Sun Life Mid Cap.
Okay, that's what it looks like. Let's also get some questions. So we already have the ICICI Pru Right Fund happening. Would you advise investors to go for this one?
See, the Right Fund is basically it's an ELSS, it's a tax-saving fund. And I would not go in for that when I have a whole lot of other options which maybe have a very good track record. So I would, miss out this one and look for ones where we have a good track record behind.
All right. So can you give us some of your recommendations? Instead of going for a new ELSS, you like the ones where you can track the record over a few years. And along with your top picks when it comes to ELSS, please give us your top picks for large cap equity, for debt funds as well.
Sure. On the ELSS funds, I think you can look at funds like Canada Robeco, Tax Saver, HDFC Tax Saver is one more option, and the Templeton Tax Shield is something that you can also look at. The Sundaram Tax Saver is a good fund as well. In terms of the large cap equity, you can look at HDFC Top 200, Birla Sun Life. They are large cap fund. You can look at. You can also look at the DSP BlackRock Top 100 fund. On the debt side, at this point, I believe that it's better to look at floating rate funds or liquid funds, considering that the interest rates may go up a little bit. So best to stick to floating rate funds and liquid funds like Templeton has a floating rate fund, HDFC floating rate fund, maybe Birla Sun Life floating rate fund. Tata Treasury Manager is a liquid plus fund which you can consider.
Okay, we also have a caller joining us on his mutual fund question. Wing Commander T. Sridhar joins us on the phone line here. Wing Commander Sridhar, what's your question, sir?
Yeah, good afternoon to you. My question is, I have DSP BlackRock Tiger. Can I switch it over to DSP BlackRock Equity? I also have DSP BlackRock Opportunities Fund. Is it okay to switch it over to DSP BlackRock Top 100?
Okay, let's ask Anil, for someone who is older there, I mean, he's closer to retirement and 57, what should be the way to approach? He appears to have a large part of his investment in equity kind of funds.
Okay. Sure. As you grow older, ideally you should be taking a lower risk level out there. So a thumb rule that you can look at, and maybe the maximum equity exposure that you should ideally have is maybe 100 minus your age. So somebody, let's say around the 55 or so, can look at maybe a 45% type of equity exposure. What one could again focus on is funds like large cap funds. So versus some of the options one suggested, maybe the DSP BlackRock top 100 is something which one could look at. Okay, and even if you do some of the mid caps, maybe you could do a systematic investment or a systematic transfer out there. On the debt side, maybe I would suggest is a good time to start looking at MIPs. So MIPs is Reliance has a decent MIP there, so you can look at stuff like that. You can look at the funds from Birla Sun Life. So that may be one way of increasing your debt exposure. At the same time, maybe participating in the small 10, 15%, 20% equity exposure on these funds.
All right. So rebalance your portfolio. Wing Commander Sridhar, any more questions?
One more question, that any new investment which I do, I can use the route debt, short-term liquid fund, systematic transfer plan.
All right. Anil, I think you have recommended that. Can you just quickly go and tell us the name of the fund that he can look at for an STP in the debt side?
Sure. Maybe you can look at something like a HDFC floating rate fund with a systematic transfer into maybe HDFC top 200 fund.
All right, Anil, thanks so much for joining us. Pleasure taking in your views on all that we discuss on mutual funds, as well as the queries that you have managed to answer. Thank you so much for joining us on Buy or Sell and giving us your views on mutual funds. Every Tuesday, we take up your queries on mutual funds. You can send them to us, and I guess we'll be happy to answer all these questions.
AFM speaking at the CBC conference, more questions there on the government's plan to cut the non-plan expenditure.
Yes, but the worries about tax mop-up not being up to the government's expectation will be a worrisome thing to talk about, and that data will come out in a week or so. But all the updates continue right here on NDTV Profits. Amina is joining us to take us through Profit Newsroom.
Right, thanks Anisha and Ashu for that. Yes, we'll take you through Profit Newsroom, all the market action and all our exclusive stories all on 12:30 this afternoon.
This is NDTV and you're watching NDTV Profit.